Page 33. White. When I got home, my dad was waiting for me. He had a serious look on his face and wanted to talk. I was sure that he knew about the gun. "Let me tell you something about your grandpa," he started off as I fixed my feet to the floor. "He worked almost 40 years for the Department of Sanitation and got me the job there too, right before I married your mother. It's an okay job, it pays the bills, and it got us this house. But things are going to be different from you. You've got a real chance in life. Sports are going to get you into college for sure. But I want you to pick a college where you're going to learn something and not just play ball. I want you to study and get a diploma. That way you'll always be somebody no matter what happens. Then you'll never have to lift garbage cans for a living like your old man." He showed me the dark lines in his palms where the dirt got in so deep it wouldn't wash out. Then he slipped a hand around the back of my neck and pulled me into a bear hug. Before he let me go, he looked up at the attic and said, "If your grandpa ever heard me talk like that about the job that feeds us, he'd have taken a strap to me. And I still have to be careful about what I say in case he's listening from up there." I couldn't fall asleep that night. Little noises in the house had me jumping, and Gotti kept barking at something. Every time I opened my eyes, I thought I saw Grandpa's shadow. The next morning, I woke up with my head under the covers, soaked in sweat, and didn't feel right until I was outside on my way to school. The cheerleaders came looking for me during homeroom to set up a party for after the game. Rebecca Coles was there. She was the captain of the squad. I didn't have a girlfriend, but if I did, I guess it would have been Rebecca. We had hooked up a couple of times since last year, and she was always cool about letting it lay low. She just walked up to me after a game one time and said that she couldn't stop thinking about me. It doesn't get any easier than that for a guy. But I liked her too. Rebecca can throw a perfect spiral with a football. She said she used to play with her older brothers until she started thinking about boys all the time. I couldn't even think about a party until after we won that night. "You can't talk to him now, he's got his game face on already," Rebecca said, punching me in the stomach. I picked my hands up without thinking. Then she stepped back and smiled. "What are you going to do to me, tough guy?" she laughed, dancing around like a boxer. "Are you going to knock my block off and go to jail instead of playing in the game tonight? Is that what you want?" she went on, trying to keep a straight face. I was laughing too until she said the part about jail. After last period, I went straight up to the gym, spread a towel over one of the benches in the locker room, and tried to catch some sleep. But just as I started to get comfortable, the kids on the track team showed up to change for their practice. That woke me up, so I put on my uniform and grabbed a basketball from the rack. The game wasn't for another 2 hours, and the bleachers hadn't even been pulled out yet. I ran up and down the court pretending the gym was packed. I would take the pass from Marcus and could hear the crowd roaring in my head when I drove for the hoop. I could see my family in the stands. They were cheering louder than anybody. Everybody was like it was supposed to be. But then I stopped pretending. There I was alone. I went back to the locker room and some of our guys were already there. Andre was our big man in the middle. He was just a junior, but he was 6'7" and still growing. "Yo, White," he said with a smile. "Thanks for not picking a school yet. I love that all these scouts are still coming out to see you in black play. That means they're all getting a peek at me for next year. Good looking out for a teammate." That's when Marcus came in with Moses and X. "Ravenswood Projects are in the house!" X screamed. Marcus slapped my hand and said, "Big night for black and white, my brother." Then Moses grabbed a freshman named Preston and told him he was on the door tonight. That meant he had to wait for the Grover Cleveland team to show and bring them up to the back stairs and to the visitors' locker room. Preston got really pissed off. He had the door the last time we played a home game. "I just dig having a white doorman," snapped X. Besides me, Preston was the only other white player on the team. He wasn't bad for a freshman, but he played guard like me and Marcus, so he never got into the game unless it was a blowout. "We want them to see your skinny freshman ass first," Moses piped in. "Then when they come out and see the real players, pow, they'll be in shock." Everybody except for Preston cracked up. If Marcus was hanging around the locker room and the other squad showed up, he'd always go to the door. He'd show them the way in and shake everybody's hand. He was totally the opposite of me. I didn't want to talk to anybody on the other team or shake their hand until the game was over. When we were still in junior high school, me and Marcus used to sneak up those same stairs to see the games. Jason Taylor was the LIC captain back then. He lived in the projects and knew us from the circle. We used to bang on the door while he was waiting for the other team and he'd let us up. Then over one Christmas vacation, the team went up to Albany to play in a tournament. The newspaper said that things got tense in the court and there was a lot of racial shit coming out of the stands. A fight broke out and the whole gym went zoo. They showed the videotape of it on TV for a week. A white kid watching the game ripped the leg off a chair and stabbed Jason through the back with it. He died right there on the court in Casey's arms. It's something that Coach never talks about. I don't know when a scrub started letting in the other squad up instead of the captain. That's the way it is now. Besides, we don't have a captain. This team belongs to me and Marcus, though if it ever came down to choosing, Marcus might poll a few more votes than me. Casey got us all together before we went out to the court. Stay focused out there, he told the team. Play our normal game and forget about impressing the scouts. Depend on your teammates and know you've got each other's backs out there. There were just 2 games left in the regular seasons. We were in first place in our division with a record of 16-2. That was good enough to give us home court advantage all the way through the playoffs. Grover Cleveland had lost more games than they won. We beat them by 20 points when we played at their gym a couple weeks ago. We put our hands into a big pile, then everybody counted to 3 and shouted, "Team!" Right off, we jumped out to an 8-0 lead. Marcus was getting me the ball the second I broke open, and I hit my first 2 shots. Neither one of them even touched the rim. They were nothing but net. Then Marcus faked a pass in my direction. When his man slid over, Marcus drove to the hoop alone for an easy score. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see my sister Rose sitting behind our bench with her friends. My mom and dad liked to sit in the last row away from all the noise, so they were impossible to find. The other team finally made a couple of baskets, but there was no way they could keep up. We were outrunning them up and down the court. I could hear the kid who was guarding me gasping for air. It was 14-4, and the coach was starting to make substitutions already. I knew at least 3 of the college scouts by sight, and when the ball kicked out of bounds, I was face-to-face with one of them in the first row. I tried not to notice him. I took the ball from the ref and passed it back in. Marcus's mother missed most of our games. She always had sewing to finish. I listened to Marcus fill around on how he did, but he never made it sound important enough, so I'd give her my own play-by-play. "Come to me for the real highlights," I'd tell her. "Marcus is too modest." The ball popped loose and Marcus grabbed it. He found me running up ahead of everyone. I dunked the ball hard with one hand. I could feel the rim shaking as I let it go of it. The cheerleaders were starting up again. On my way back up the court, I flashed Rebecca a big smile. We rolled through the rest of the first half and went into halftime, leading 43-18. Everything was on cruise control. It's great in the locker room at halftime when you're kicking ass on the court. Everyone is all charged up and nobody minds the place stinks from the smell of sweat. Not when you're winning big and the stands outside are still rocking for you. Andre and X were already talking up their best plays. Even kids who didn't get into the game yet sounded like they had something to do with their score. Marcus was sitting down with a towel over his shoulders. I was walking back and forth trying to keep a good sweat going, and so I wouldn't get stiff. Casey came in and told us not to get carried away by the score. "We made a lot of mistakes out there," Casey said. "If we were playing a better team, it might have cost us." Went over to the chalkboard and put up the plays he wanted to run in the second half. Before we got through, the principal, Miss Randolph, called Casey from just outside the door. He kept talking to us as he made his way over. Then he tossed the chalk to X and went outside. That's when X started to give his own speech and wrote, "Take no prisoners" up on the board. After a while, Coach called us out for the second half, and we started to run a layup line to get warm. I was looking around at the crowd in the gym like they belonged to us. That's when I noticed that Marcus wasn't out on the court. I thought maybe he hit the bathroom or needed to get taped up, and after another run through the line, I went to check. I looked back inside the locker room and 2 guys in suits were handcuffing Marcus. Casey and Miss Randolph saw me at the door and pushed me back outside. Then Casey wiped a tear from his eyes and huddled everybody up around our bench. "Marcus was just arrested," Casey said, steadying himself. "I can't say why. There's nothing we can do for him right now except play the rest of the game like it means something to us." After we broke the huddle, kids were looking at me for answers, but I didn't have anything to say. My legs got weak and I thought I was going to pass out. I tried not to look anyone in the eye and walked out on the court. Then the ref blew the whistle to start play. We beat Grover Cleveland 73-58 that night. I was the high scorer with 35 points.